The sun had just risen above the horizon when the fishing boat Shinmei Maru began to shake its first beats. Piercing through the misty morning mist that covered the surface of the Japanese sea, Captain Hiroshi, a man in his 50s, short and stocky, with a tanned face and eyes as sharp as a knife just pulled from a whetstone, stood tall on the deck, holding a cup of hot tea, staring out at the ocean that was starting to ripple. Today was the first day of the winter fishing season, the season when bluefin tuna and mackerel flock to the East Sea of Japan to spawn. On board, the crew had been up since 3 in the morning. The ropes were squeaking. The auxiliary engines were roaring like monsters. The rice cooker in the galley began to smoke. Giving off the aroma of grilled fish and miso soup, which would energize the people who had worked hard for dozens of hours without rest. This trip was not like the previous ones. Captain Hiroshi had been monitoring the hydrographic charts, the currents, and news from his fellow ships. Rumors were circulating that a huge school of tuna had begun to enter the area near the edge of the Tsurugu Aquifer, nearly 3,000 meters below sea level, and one of the most dangerous waters around Japan. But where there is danger, there are fish. When the ship was more than 70 nautical miles from shore, the waves began to become fierce. The Sea of Japan in winter is like a foggy battlefield. Waves 4 to 5 meters high crashed against the side of the ship as if to swallow everything. But that was also when the biggest schools of tuna usually appeared. The sailors, each with their own task, acted as if they had been programmed. Some lowered the nets. Some prepared the fishing rods. Some loaded ice from the freezer to fill the tanks. Captain Hiroshi gave the signal, release the bait. Kilometers of line were lowered, dangling thousands of shiny steel hooks. Each with a frozen sardine attached. It was a bait to tuna, a monster of the sea, sometimes weighing more than 300 kilograms. Every time the fish took the bait, it would shoot like an arrow, pulling the rope taut. And if the sailor was not steady, he could be pulled into the sea in an instant. The whole ship seemed to fall into a tense, urgent rhythm. Everyone knew that if only a few hours passed, or if they were slower than other ships, they would lose the opportunity to earn hundreds of millions of yen. The siren echoed as the sonar signaled, fish approaching. Under the murky water, hundreds of streaks of light moved. The school of tuna was approaching the long line system. Captain Hiroshi shouted loudly, "Prepare to pull the rope." The giant winches started working, screeching like the screams of wooden and iron monsters. Fisherman Yamato, the youngest of the group, 27 years old, his face covered in sweat and seawater, was assigned to pull in tuna for the first time. As the line began to shake violently, he rushed forward, his hand firmly grasping the rod. A terrifying force almost made him fall. The first fish hooked weighed no less than 200 kilograms. And was struggling wildly. The three of them pulled together. And little by little, the fish gradually appeared on the surface of the water, a silvery bluefin tuna, with a muscular body and eyes like two precious stones. Yamato shouted loudly, the blood on his hand mixing with the sea water, "Pull! Don't let it escape!"